Jack Reynolds stood at the edge of his wide ranch, watching the sun sink behind the golden hills. The air was filled with the quiet sound of wind brushing against dry grass, the faint whinny of horses, and the faraway clatter of cowbells. It was a peaceful evening, the kind of peace a man only earned after years of hard work. Jack had built all of this with his own hands. The fences, the barns, the herds. Everything was a result of his sweat and patience. He had inherited the land when he was just 20, after his father passed away. Back then it was almost nothing, broken fences, weak cattle, and endless debts. Most people thought Jack would sell it off and move to the city, but he didn't. He had made a promise to his father that he would bring life back to the ranch, and he had done exactly that. Now, years later, his ranch was one of the most successful in the county. People respected him. He had money, land, and a name that carried weight in town. But for all that, there was something missing in Jack's life, something no amount of land or money could fill. That emptiness began to fade only after he met Emily. Emily Carter was a school teacher in the nearby town. She had soft brown hair, bright eyes, and a voice that carried warmth wherever she went. Jack met her one spring afternoon at the town's annual fair. He remembered the moment clearly. She was helping a small child fix a broken kite, smiling with such care that Jack couldn't look away. When she noticed him watching, she gave a polite nod, and that simple gesture stayed in his mind for days. He started visiting the school occasionally, bringing supplies for the children or helping fix the old fence around the playground. At first, he told himself it was just kindness, but soon he realized he was going there for her. Emily was different from the people Jack usually met. She didn't care about money or status. She spoke to everyone the same way, with kindness and patience. The way she looked at life made Jack feel young again, hopeful again. After months of meeting, talking, and slowly understanding each other, Jack asked her to marry him. It was one of the happiest moments of his life when she said yes. But as the wedding day drew near, Jack's happiness began to be shadowed by a quiet fear. It wasn't about Emily. Not directly. It was about himself. Years ago, before he became successful, Jack had been engaged once before. The woman he loved back then had left him for someone wealthier, right when his ranch was struggling. That betrayal had cut deep into his heart. He thought he had moved past it, but now that he was preparing to marry again, those old doubts started to whisper in his mind. What if Emily loved him for what he had built, not for who he was? He hated the thought, but it wouldn't go away. One evening, as he sat on his porch with his old friend Samuel, the worry slipped out. Samuel had worked with him for years and knew him better than anyone else. "Sam," Jack said quietly, "how do you know when someone truly loves you? Not your money, not your land, but you." Samuel gave a slow smile. "You don't test love, Jack, you trust it. That's the only way it works." Jack nodded, but his heart didn't agree. He wanted to believe, but the fear of being fooled again was stronger. When Samuel left, Jack stayed awake for hours, watching the stars above the quiet ranch. He couldn't sleep. His mind kept replaying memories and the old heartbreak, the laughter of Emily, the stories people in town sometimes told about how lucky she was to marry a rich man. The more he thought, the deeper his doubt grew. Finally, a strange idea came to him. What if he could see her true feelings before the wedding? What if he could watch her, not as her fiancée, but as a stranger? At first it sounded foolish, but the idea wouldn't leave him. He knew Emily often visited the ranch to help arrange things for their wedding. If he could stay close quietly, he could learn what she said, how she acted when she thought he wasn't there. Maybe then his heart could rest. The next morning, Jack made a decision. He told Emily that he had to travel out of town for a few days to settle a business matter. Emily smiled and wished him well, not knowing what he was planning. As soon as she left for town, Jack went to the small storage shed behind the barn and found some old clothes, torn jeans, a dusty hat, a faded shirt. When he looked at himself in the mirror, he barely recognized the man staring back. Gone was the proud rancher. In his place stood a tired-looking farmhand. He smeared a bit of dirt on his face, cut his beard shorter, and tied a bandana around his neck. When he walked into the ranch yard, even the workers didn't recognize him. He introduced himself as Tom, a traveler looking for work. The foreman, a kind old man named Harris, looked him up and down and nodded. "We could use another hand for the week," he said. "You'll start tomorrow, And just like that, Jack Reynolds, one of the richest men in the county, became a simple ranch worker. The first day was harder than he expected. The sun was hot, the work endless, and he had to pretend not to know things he'd built himself. When he carried hay to the stables, he overheard two men talking about Emily. "She's a fine lady," one of them said. "The boss is a lucky man." "Maybe," the other replied. "But I wonder if she'll stay the same after the wedding. Folks change when they get money." Jack said nothing, but the words made his stomach twist. The next few days went quietly. Emily came to the ranch every afternoon to check on the decorations for the wedding. She always brought homemade pie for the workers, thanking them for helping with the preparations. When she handed some to Tom, she smiled kindly, not knowing who he really was. "Thank you, ma'am," Jack said in a rough voice, lowering his hat. She nodded and walked away, humming softly. He watched her from afar, feeling both proud and guilty. Proud of her kindness, guilty for spying on it. At night, when the ranch was silent, Jack sat under the stars, thinking about the strange path he had chosen. He had wanted peace of mind, but all he felt was confusion. Every time Emily laughed or helped someone, his heart told him she was genuine. But every time he remembered his past, the doubt returned like a shadow. One afternoon, Emily stayed longer than usual. She was talking to the florist about where to place the wedding arch. Jack listened quietly as he worked nearby, pretending to sweep the stable floor. Her voice carried in the breeze, full of excitement and nervous energy. "It feels strange," she said. "In a few days I'll be Mrs. Reynolds. Sometimes I still can't believe it." The florist smiled. "You're marrying a good man." "I know," Emily replied softly. "He has such a strong heart. I just hope I can make him happy." Jack's chest tightened. The sincerity in her tone almost made him drop his broom. But then the florist asked, "You're not nervous about marrying someone so rich and respected?" Emily laughed gently. "Money doesn't make a man good. Kindness does. And Jack has that." Jack turned away quickly so no one could see the emotion in his eyes. Maybe Samuel was right. Maybe trust was all he needed. As the sun dipped behind the hills, Jack decided that tomorrow would be his last day in disguise. He couldn't keep living behind lies. He would tell her everything. He would apologize for doubting her. But fate had other plans. Because the next day, when he thought everything was clear, he would overhear something that changed everything he believed about love, trust, and himself. The next morning, the air on the ranch was cool and quiet. A thin layer of mist floated above the fields, and the smell of fresh hay filled the air. Jack woke up early, just as the sky was turning pink. He was still dressed as Tom, the simple farmhand, and no one on the ranch suspected who he really was. He had spent the night in a small wooden cabin near the stables. The bed was rough and the air was chilly, but he didn't mind. For the first time in years, he was living like an ordinary worker again, no one calling him sir, no one depending on him for orders. It felt strange but also freeing. Still, deep inside, there was a nervous feeling that wouldn't go away. As the day began, the ranch started to come alive. Horses neighed, cows lowed, and the men began their morning routines. Jack joined them quietly, carrying buckets of water and feeding the animals. He worked hard, making sure not to draw any attention. He spoke little, kept his head down, and listened more than he talked. By mid-morning, the sun had burned away the mist. That's when Emily arrived. She rode up on a light brown horse, her dress flowing slightly with the wind. Her smile lit up the ranch as she greeted the workers. She didn't look like someone preparing for a fancy wedding. She looked simple, kind, and full of excitement. "Good morning, everyone," she said cheerfully. "Thank you all for helping. The wedding's coming up fast and there's still so much to do." The men nodded politely. A few joked about how their boss, Jack Reynolds, was lucky to have her. She laughed, shaking her head. "I'm the lucky one," she said softly. Jack, standing by the stable, heard her words and felt something warm in his chest. He wanted to run to her and tell her who he really was, but he couldn't, not yet. He still needed to be sure of her feelings. As she walked closer, Emily noticed him. "You must be new here," she said kindly. "I don't think we've met before." Jack kept his head low and replied in a rougher tone. "Yes, ma'am. Just started yesterday. Name's Tom," she smiled. "Well, Tom, welcome to the ranch. It's good to have another helping hand. These men work so hard, and I'm grateful for all of you." He nodded. "Thank you, ma'am." When she turned to talk to the florist, Jack let out a slow breath. Hearing her kindness in person, knowing she was speaking to him without realizing who he was. It made his heart ache. She treated everyone the same, with genuine warmth. Later that day, while fixing a wooden fence, Jack worked beside a young ranch hand named Peter. Peter was talkative and cheerful, always sharing bits of gossip from town. "You heard about the wedding, Tom?" Peter said, hammering a nail into the fence post. Jack forced a small smile. "A little. Seems like a big one." "Oh, it'll be the event of the season," Peter replied. "Everyone's saying how Miss Emily is marrying one of the richest men in the county. Some folks say she's lucky, others say maybe she's clever." Jack stopped hammering. "Clever?" he repeated slowly. Peter shrugged. "Well, you know how people talk. They say no one really knows if she loves him or for what he's got. But I don't believe that. I've seen her around here. She's not like that." Jack looked down, his hands tightening around the hammer. Peter's words echoed the same fear that had been haunting him. The doubt he thought was fading began to rise again. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Maybe people just like to talk." Peter laughed. "They sure do. You'll see, she's a kind lady. Doesn't act proud or fancy. She even brings pies for us sometimes." Jack smiled faintly. He knew that was true. Emily had already done it once before. He wanted to believe Peter, but his mind wouldn't rest. In the afternoon, Emily brought a basket of sandwiches for the workers. "You all deserve a good meal," she said, placing the basket on the table near the barn. "The wedding decorations are coming along beautifully. Thank you for helping." Jack reached out to take one sandwich, and their hands brushed lightly. She smiled politely and moved on, but the small touch made his heart skip. For a brief moment, he wondered if she would recognize him somehow, if his disguise could ever hide how much he loved her. But she didn't. As the day passed, Jack worked harder than anyone else, trying to keep his thoughts busy. The sun was hot, the ground dry, and by the time evening came, his back ached. Still, he stayed to help feed the horses. That's when he overheard the first conversation that truly shook him. Emily was talking to her cousin Clara near the barn. They were arranging some flowers for the wedding arch, unaware that Jack was inside the stable cleaning a saddle. Their voices floated through the open door. "I just hope everything goes well," Emily said softly. "Sometimes I feel like Jack is so serious, so quiet lately." "I can't tell what's on his mind," Clara chuckled. "Men always get nervous before the wedding. He probably just wants everything to be perfect." "Maybe," Emily replied. "But sometimes I wonder if he really knows me. Not the way people see me, and the real me." Jack froze. His hands stopped moving. Her voice was gentle, not angry, but filled with something deeper, doubt. Clara sounded surprised. "What do you mean?" Emily sighed. "Jack is kind and strong, but I think he's been hurt before. There's a wall between us sometimes. I can feel it even when he's smiling. I just wish he'd trust me completely." Jack's heart pounded in his chest. Every word she spoke hit him like a wave. Clara said softly, "Do you love him?" Emily was quiet for a long moment. Then she whispered, "I do. More than I ever thought I could. But sometimes I worry. I worry he loves me because I fit into his world, not because he truly sees who I am." Jack's breath caught. His throat felt dry. For the first time, he saw things from her side. The same fear he carried was living in her heart, too. He sat there silently, his hands trembling slightly. Emily continued, unaware that he was listening. "People think I'm marrying him for his money, but that's not true. I've never cared for riches. I just want a home filled with peace, not wealth. I hope someday he believes that." Jack leaned back against the stall, closing his eyes. Everything he doubted was melting away, replaced by guilt. All along, he had questioned her love when she had been worrying about his trust. When the conversation ended, Emily and Clara walked away, still talking softly. Jack stayed in the stable, staring at the floor. He felt ashamed of what he'd done, pretending, spying, lying to the woman he loved. He realized he wasn't testing her anymore. He was only testing his own fear. That night, he sat outside his small cabin looking at the stars again. The sky was clear, wide, and quiet. He thought about the promise he'd made to his father, to build a life based on honesty and hard work. But now, here he was, living under a false name, hiding from the very person he wanted to share his truth with. He whispered to himself, "I've made a mistake." But he couldn't undo it yet, not until he faced Emily and told her everything. The next morning, he decided that the time had come. He would reveal the truth. He would tell Emily who Tom really was, and he would apologize for doubting her love. He knew it might hurt her, but it was the only way to make things right. As he got ready, he saw Emily's horse in the distance. She was coming back to the ranch again, and with her another chance to tell the truth. But just as Jack stepped out of the cabin, he heard voices near the main house. Emily was speaking again, and this time what she said would change everything Jack believed about love, trust, and himself forever. Jack woke up early the next morning, before the first light touched the hills. The air was cool and smelled of damp earth. He had barely slept the night before. Emily's words kept echoing in his mind, her gentle voice filled with both love and sadness. She wasn't hiding anything. She was only afraid, just like him. He sat on the edge of the small bed in the workers' cabin, rubbing his tired eyes. He had planned to end this charade today. He was going to tell her everything. How Tom was actually Jack. How he had been watching her to know the truth of her heart. And how wrong he had been to doubt her. He wanted to see her smile again, not from a distance, but close, where he could hold her hands and promise that he would never question her again. But fate had other plans for that day. When Jack stepped out of the cabin, the ranch was already awake. The sun had not yet climbed over the mountains, but the workers were busy feeding the animals and preparing the fields. He joined them quietly, helping with the hay. His disguise was still perfect. His clothes dusty, his hat low, his voice rough. After a while, he saw Emily's horse trotting up the dirt path. She was early today, earlier than usual. Her hair was tied back neatly, and she wore a light blue dress. There was something different in her expression. She looked thoughtful, maybe even a little worried. Jack's heart beat faster. He hoped this was the moment he could speak to her, even if it meant revealing everything. She greeted the workers with her usual kind smile and then walked toward the old house near the orchard, where the wedding planner had set up her work. Jack followed her at a distance, pretending to carry a stack of wooden planks. He wanted to find the right moment to tell her. As he came closer, he noticed another woman standing by the porch. Clara, Emily's cousin. The two women were talking quietly. Jack didn't mean to listen, but when he heard his name, his steps froze. He stayed behind the side of the barn, half hidden by the wooden wall. Emily's voice was soft. "Clara, I don't know what to do. Something doesn't feel right." Jack has been distant. "It's like he's there, but not really with me." Clara placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Maybe he's nervous about the wedding." "Men get that way sometimes." Emily shook her head. "No, it's not that. It's like he's watching me from afar. Like he doesn't trust me." Jack's chest tightened. She had sensed his doubt all along. "I love him," Emily continued, "but I don't know if he truly knows me. Sometimes I think he only sees the version of me that he wants. Quiet, gentle, someone who fits neatly into his life. But I'm not perfect, Clara. I'm just me." Clara smiled softly. "You're overthinking. Jack adores you." "I hope so," Emily said with a sigh. "Because if he doesn't trust me now before the wedding, how will he trust me after?" Jack closed his eyes. Every word cut deeper. She was right. He had doubted her from the start, not because of anything she'd done, but because of the fear inside his own heart. But before he could step out and tell her the truth, another voice joined the conversation, a man's voice. It was Harris, the ranch foreman. "Miss Emily," Harris said politely, "the decorator wants to know where you'd like the flower arch placed." "Oh, thank you, Mr. Harris," Emily replied, turning toward him. "Could you tell them to set it up near the south fence? That's where the view is best." Harris nodded and began to walk away, but before he left he said something that made Jack's stomach twist. "You and Mr. Reynolds make a fine pair. Everyone says you'll be the richest couple in 3 counties. Emily smiled faintly, but her next words made Jack stop breathing. "I don't care about being the richest," she said softly. "Sometimes I wish Jack weren't wealthy at all. Maybe then he could believe that I love him for who he is." Those words struck him harder than any storm. Emily turned to Clara and continued, "If he lost everything tomorrow, I'd still marry him, but I don't think he knows that. And it hurts, Clara. It hurts that he can't see how much I care about the man, not the money or the land." Clara hugged her gently. "Then tell him. Let him see your heart." Emily shook her head, tears glinting in her eyes. "I've tried, but he's closed off. Sometimes I feel like there's a part of him I'll never reach." Jack felt his throat tighten. He wanted to run to her, to drop the disguise and tell her how wrong he'd been. But shame held him still. He realized how deeply he'd hurt her, not by words but by doubt. He stayed hidden as Emily and Clara walked toward the field. His hands trembled as he leaned against the barn wall. Every piece of her conversation played over in his head. The woman he had secretly tested was the one person who loved him most truly, and he had failed her. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Jack worked silently, his mind far away. Every sound, the creak of the barn door, the clatter of tools, the laughter of workers, felt distant. He thought only of Emily's tears and the pain in her voice. When the sun climbed high, Jack went to the river at the edge of the ranch. He sat on a rock, staring at his reflection in the water. The disguise that once seemed clever now looked foolish. The dirt on his face, the worn clothes, the false name, all of it felt like a mask of shame. He spoke to himself quietly. You wanted to see her truth, Jack, but she was the only one who was honest. You were the one hiding. The wind blew softly through the trees, and he felt something inside him break, not from anger, but from realization. Later that evening, Emily returned to the ranch again. Jack saw her from afar, standing near the corral, watching the sunset. The sky was painted with orange and pink, and she looked peaceful but lonely. Jack wanted to go to her, to end this painful secret. He walked a few steps forward, but his courage failed him. How could he tell her that he had lied, that he had been standing beside her, pretending to be someone else? He turned back toward the cabin, lost in thought. As he walked past the old barn, he heard voices again, this time from two workers who were gossiping nearby. You know, one said, the boss sure is lucky. Miss Emily seems perfect. Perfect? The other man laughed. Maybe, but no one's perfect. I heard she once said she'd leave town if he ever lost his money. Guess she likes comfort. Jack stopped in his tracks. What did you say? He asked sharply, forgetting to hide his voice. The men looked at him in surprise. Oh, nothing, Tom. Just something someone said at the general store. Folks talk, you know. Jack frowned. And you believed it? The man shrugged. Maybe, maybe not. But who knows what people really think? Jack said nothing more and walked away. He knew gossip could twist the truth, but hearing even a shadow of doubt after the morning's emotions unsettled him. He didn't know what to believe anymore, the rumors or his own heart. That night, sleep didn't come. He lay awake in the cabin, staring at the ceiling. Every word, every voice kept echoing in his head. Emily's confession, the workers' gossip, his own guilt. As the hours passed, he made a decision. He couldn't hide anymore. Tomorrow, he would tell her everything. Even if she walked away from him forever, she deserved the truth. Because now he understood that love wasn't about watching someone to test their heart. It was about trusting them enough not to. When dawn came, Jack stepped outside and looked toward the ranch house. The sun was rising, painting the sky gold. He took a deep breath, feeling both afraid and free. Today, the truth would come out, no matter what it cost him. He didn't know it yet, but when he finally told Emily the truth, it would test their love in a way neither of them expected. The next morning, the ranch woke up under a soft golden light. Birds chirped in the trees, and the air smelled of fresh grass and warm earth. Jack Reynolds woke early, feeling both nervous and determined. Today would be the day he revealed everything to Emily, the truth about Tom, his disguise, and the doubts he had carried for far too long. He dressed not as Tom, but as himself. He combed his hair, straightened his clothes, and for the first time in days looked into the mirror without the mask of a farmhand. The man staring back at him was the real Jack, a man who had been afraid of losing love yet ready to make amends. Jack's heart raced as he walked toward the ranch house. Emily was already there, arranging flowers for the wedding arch. The morning sun caught her hair and she looked radiant, unaware that the man she thought was gone had been so close all along. Emily, he called softly, his voice shaking just slightly. She turned, surprised. Jack, she asked, smiling at the sight of him, but the smile faded quickly as she noticed the seriousness in his expression. Emily, I need to tell you something, he said, walking closer. He could see the curiosity and a small hint of worry in her eyes. Something important. She put down the flowers and looked at him, waiting. Jack took a deep breath. The past few days, I haven't been honest with you. I wasn't really out of town. I was here on the ranch. Emily blinked, confused. What do you mean? Jack swallowed hard. I disguised myself. I pretended to be a farmhand named Tom. I thought I needed to see your true feelings. I wanted to know if you loved me. Not the ranch, not my money, not what I've built. I wanted to know if you truly loved me for me. Emily's eyes widened. She opened her mouth to speak, then paused. She was shocked, yes, but also hurt. You were spying on me? She whispered. Jack nodded, shame filling his chest. Yes, I was wrong. I let my fears take over and I doubted you. But hearing your words yesterday, Emily, it made me realize how foolish I've been. You've been honest and kind every single day, and I was the one hiding behind lies. Emily looked away for a moment, tears brimming in her eyes. Jack, I can't believe you would do that. All this time I thought you trusted me. I thought I was protecting myself, Jack said quietly. But I see now that I was only hurting the one person who truly loves me. And you deserve better than that, Emily. I deserve better than that too. I can't change the past, but I can promise you, I will never doubt you again. She turned back to him, her eyes glistening with emotion. Jack, I don't know what to say. I love you. I've always loved you. But why would you think I would? I trusted you completely. Jack stepped closer, his hand reaching for hers. I know, and I should have trusted you too. I let my fears and old heartbreaks blind me. I thought I needed proof of your love, but the truth is, love isn't proven through spying. It's proven by trust, by being open and honest. Emily took a shaky breath, her hand resting in his. She looked into his eyes and saw the sincerity there. Jack, it hurt to think that you doubted me, but hearing this, I understand why you did it. I want us to start fresh. No more hiding, no more secrets. Jack nodded, a weight lifting from his shoulders. Yes, no more hiding. From now on, only truth. I want to share everything with you, and I want us to build our life together without fear, without doubt. For a long moment, they simply stood there, holding hands and looking at each other. The silence was filled not with awkwardness, but with understanding, a deep connection that only truth could bring. Finally, Emily smiled softly. Then let's start fresh, Jack, and promise me one thing? Anything, he said. Never hide behind masks again. Not for me, not for yourself. We face life together, honestly, always. Jack smiled, feeling lighter than he had in years. I promise, Emily, no more masks. Only honesty, only us. After that, they spent the day together on the ranch. Jack helped her arrange the flowers for the wedding. They laughed together, shared small stories, and talked about their dreams for the future. The ranch, which had been the stage of doubt and worry, now felt like the beginning of something new. Jack even joked with the workers, who had no idea about the secret he had been keeping. Emily brought homemade pies for everyone, and Jack watched her kindness with a heart full of admiration. He had spent days fearing her love, but now he saw it clearly. Emily's love wasn't about wealth, status, or convenience. It was about the man he truly was, and she loved him for that. Without question, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Jack and Emily walked together to the top of the hill near the ranch house. The view stretched for miles, golden fields, grazing cattle, and the quiet beauty of the Texas horizon. Jack, Emily said softly, leaning against him. I was scared too. I worried that maybe you didn't love me for me. But now I see that we both had fears, and now we can leave them behind. Jack hugged her tightly. Yes, Emily, we leave fear behind. Only trust, love, and honesty from now on. For a long moment they stayed like that, watching the sun disappear behind the hills. It felt as if the world had paused, as if everything that had been wrong was now right. Jack realized that the truth had been the hardest thing to face, but also the most beautiful. That evening, as the ranch quieted down, Jack sat outside their small cabin, reflecting on the day. He thought about the past days, the disguise, the doubts, the overheard words. He knew he had made mistakes, but he also knew that love was about learning and growing together. Emily joined him, sitting beside him on the wooden bench. She rested her head on his shoulder. I'm glad you finally told me, she whispered. Jack kissed the top of her head gently. Me too. I can't believe I waited so long to trust you. But now nothing can stop us. We face life together, no secrets, no fears. They sat in silence, watching the stars appear one by one. The ranch that had been the setting for doubt and worry now felt like a home filled with hope, honesty, and love. Jack realized that the lesson of the past days was simple but powerful. Trust could not be forced, only earned, and love could not be tested, only nurtured. As the night deepened, they went inside to prepare for the next day, when the wedding would finally take place. Jack felt calm, happy, and certain for the first time in years. The days of fear and disguise were over. What mattered now was honesty, trust, and the love they shared. And so, as the stars twinkled above the ranch, Jack and Emily finally found the peace they had both been searching for. Not through tests or secrets, but through the courage to face the truth together. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear. The sky was a soft blue and the warm sun cast golden light over the ranch. Birds chirped cheerfully in the trees, and the air smelled faintly of fresh flowers and hay. It was the kind of morning that promised new beginnings. And for Jack Reynolds and Emily Carter, it was the start of the rest of their lives. Jack woke early, feeling a mixture of excitement and calm he had never known before. He dressed carefully, choosing a crisp white shirt and a dark vest. He looked at himself in the mirror, thinking of the journey that had led him to this moment. The days of doubt, disguise, and worry seemed far behind him now, replaced by a quiet confidence and trust in the woman he was about to marry. Emily, meanwhile, was in the small room next to the main house, putting the final touches on her wedding dress. The dress was simple but elegant, just like her. She looked at herself in the mirror, smiling softly. Today was not about wealth or status. It was about love, trust, and the promises she and Jack would make to each other. She had spent many nights worrying, but now those fears were gone. She knew the truth, and she knew Jack loved her, not for her beauty or charm, but for who she truly was. The ranch was busy with preparations. Workers arranged chairs under the wide oak trees. Flowers were tied to posts, and tables were decorated with fresh ribbons. The gentle hum of activity filled the air, but there was no rush or tension. Everything felt calm, joyful, and full of anticipation. Jack stepped outside and looked around. His heart swelled as he saw Emily walking toward the ceremony area, her hand resting lightly on her bouquet. She looked radiant in the morning sunlight. The memories of the past days, the disguise, the doubts, the overheard words, came back to him. But now they felt like lessons rather than burdens. He understood something important. Love could only thrive when trust and honesty were present. Emily reached the ceremony area and paused to look at the view. The golden field stretched out around them, and the distant hills glowed in the morning light. She took a deep breath, feeling both nervous and calm. Today, nothing would be hidden. Today, everything was truth. Jack walked up to her, standing a few feet away. Their eyes met, and for a moment words weren't needed. The love they shared spoke more clearly than anything else. He smiled gently, and she returned the smile, a soft laugh escaping her lips. The ceremony began simply. A local friend, someone both Jack and Emily trusted, stepped forward to officiate. There were no grand decorations or extravagant arrangements, only the beauty of the ranch and the people who cared for them. Family, friends, and workers gathered to witness the union of two people who had learned the power of trust and honesty. When it came time to speak their vows, Jack took Emily's hands in his. He looked into her eyes, feeling the depth of her love and the sincerity that had always been there. "Emily," he said, his voice steady and full of emotion. "I made mistakes before. I doubted you when I should have trusted you. I let fear control my heart, and for that I am truly sorry. But today I promise to love you, trust you, and share my life with you honestly always. You are the most important person in my life, and I will never let doubt come between us again." Emily's eyes glistened with tears, but she smiled softly. "Jack, I've always loved you. I've loved the man you are, not the ranch, not your wealth, just you. I forgive your doubts because I know they came from fear. And today, I promise to love you with my whole heart, to trust you and to walk beside you in honesty and faith. Together, we will face life without secrets or masks." The words hung in the air, tender and true. As they exchanged rings, there was a sense of peace that settled over the entire ranch. The workers, friends, and family clapped softly, moved by the love they saw before them. It was not just a wedding. It was the celebration of trust, honesty, and the courage to overcome fear. After the ceremony, the couple walked through the ranch hand in hand, greeting the guests who had come to share in their joy. Jack introduced Emily to the workers once more. not as their boss's bride, but as the woman he truly loved. Emily laughed and shared small stories, making everyone feel included. The ranch, which had once been the setting of doubt and worry, now felt alive with happiness, laughter, and hope. As the day went on, Jack and Emily found a quiet spot under the wide oak trees, away from the busy chatter of the celebration. They sat together, holding hands and looking at the fields that had been both the source of Jack's success and his fears. "Do you remember," Emily said softly, "when you pretended to be Tom?" Jack chuckled, feeling a mix of shame and amusement. "How could I forget? I was so foolish, afraid of losing you before I even had the chance to truly know you." Emily smiled and leaned her head on his shoulder. "I knew you were hiding something. I didn't understand why, but now I see. It took courage to admit the truth, and I admire that. We both had our fears, but we faced them together." Jack kissed her forehead gently. "I've learned something important, Emily. Love isn't proven by tests or disguises. It's proven by trust, by being open, and by believing in each other even when fear tries to take over. You've taught me that." Emily looked up at him, her eyes shining. "And you've taught me that love is patient, that it waits and grows stronger even when challenged. Today is proof that honesty and trust can overcome anything." The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the ranch. The celebration continued around them, but Jack and Emily sat quietly, savoring the moment. They had faced doubts, misunderstandings, and fear, but they had emerged stronger and closer than ever before. Later, as evening settled in, the couple joined their guests for a simple meal under the stars. Lanterns were hung from tree branches, casting soft light over the gathering. The sound of laughter, clinking glasses, and cheerful conversation filled the air. Jack watched Emily smile as she spoke to everyone, her kindness shining brighter than any decoration. He realized that wealth and success were not what made life beautiful. It was moments like this: honesty shared, love celebrated, trust rebuilt. He felt a deep gratitude for Emily, for the ranch, and for the lessons they had both learned. When the night was quiet and the stars twinkled above, Jack and Emily stood together on the hill overlooking the ranch. The world below seemed peaceful and still, as if it had waited just for them to reach this moment. Jack spoke softly. "Emily, we've come a long way. From fear to trust, from doubt to love. I promise that no matter what the future holds, I will always be honest with you, always trust you, and always love you fully." Emily held his hands tightly. "And I promise the same, Jack. We've learned the value of honesty, the strength of trust, and the power of love. Together, we can face anything." They stood there for a long moment, holding each other, feeling the warmth of the evening and the certainty of their love. The ranch had been a witness to their fears and their courage, and now it stood as a symbol of new beginnings. Jack looked around, feeling a deep sense of peace. He knew the lessons of the past days would stay with him forever. Doubt could never take root again, because he had learned to trust Emily fully and to believe in the power of love. Emily rested her head on his shoulder, and together they watched the stars appear one by one above the ranch. The world was quiet, the fields were calm, and the night seemed full of promise. This was not just the end of a wedding day. It was the beginning of a life built on honesty, trust, and love. Jack and Emily had faced their fears, revealed their truths, and come out stronger, ready to face the future together without masks, without secrets, and with hearts fully open. And as they stood there, hand in hand, they both knew that love, when nurtured with trust and honesty, could overcome any fear, any doubt, and any obstacle. A lesson they would carry for the rest of their lives. The ranch, the land that had witnessed both fear and courage, now held only happiness. And Jack Reynolds and Emily Carter, finally free from doubt, stepped forward into their future together, ready to face life as partners, lovers, and best friends, with hearts full of love and trust that would never fade.